We are on with Bill Allen from Florida, Blackjack Real Estate CEO. How's it going, Bill?
Hey, Carlos, going good.
Glad to have you on. Glad to have another Ravens fan on.
That's right. It's good to be here. I grew up in Maryland, so I'm a big Ravens fan.
Have to show the Ravens championship banner here real quick.
Yep, I got my cup right here. So.
Awesome. So Bill is CEO of a real estate investing company. And today I kind of wanted to dive into the before, during, and after of your use with our software InvestorFuse, and really dive into some pain points and some successes you've had in your business, personal career, and using our software. So tell me a little bit about your start in real estate and kind of how you grew into that business, because I know you're in the Navy, a pilot for the Navy, or were a pilot for the Navy.
Yeah, I kind of got into real estate. I bought a house in 2006, right before, when everything was real expensive in San Diego. I was in the Navy, moving around all the time. I've moved like 13 or 14 times in the last 15 years with the Navy. So I'm constantly moving to a new house. So rented for a long time myself. And then started kind of buying houses as I would move, and then I would rent them out to tenants, and started seeing some returns on rentals. So I started doing that initially. Bought a couple rentals, and then I started running out of money real fast. And then I figured out, I actually bought another house as a rental, and we fixed it up. It was a foreclosure, and then my real estate agent said, "Hey, why don't you sell it? You can make a lot more money." So I saw dollar signs, and I sold that one, and I think we made a little over $40,000. So that allowed me to buy another rental, but then I ran out of money again. So it's just this kind of process with rentals. So we started flipping houses, and we'd only do like one a year. And I spent a lot of my time doing the work and stuff like that. But I was trying to create another income for myself outside of the Navy, so I could retire from the Navy after 20 years and do real estate, part-time, and, make another $50,000 or $100,000 a year doing that, and then have my Navy retirement. So you're right. I was a pilot in the Navy, and then now I got out of the Navy April 30th, actually, active duty, just because the real estate business has been going so well for me, and I get to stay home with my kids and spend time with my family. So I fly part-time for the Navy now. So I'm a reservist. I go back down to Pensacola and fly like once a month for a week, and get paid part-time. But I still like to fly airplanes. It's a lot of fun. So we get to fly with the students, and I get to do that stuff still, and keep doing the real estate business. So that's kind of what got me into real estate initially, was my rentals, and then flipping houses to make more money for another rental. But then my family is really what kept me doing it. So I didn't want to deploy again. I didn't want to constantly be overseas, and we had kids, and I wanted to see them grow up and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what kept me in real estate, because I saw that I could make a good living and still be home with my family and spend time with my kids. So
absolutely. Yeah. Congratulations on that accomplishment there. And now you're able to spend more time with your family and kids, which is the most important thing. To backtrack a little bit and clarify, you had the rentals, and then you got into flipping. Flipping, you're referring to as rehabbing houses and then reselling them retail with an agent, right? Not wholesale.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I wasn't wholesaling then. I was kind of like self-educating myself, reading books on different websites, just trying to teach myself what real estate investing was. I mean, initially I was buying houses off the MLS. I was using agents. I was paying almost retail or competing with other investors for the same investment property, overpaying and stuff. So I was buying rentals. My rentals were using conventional financing. So I put 20% down. That's why I was running out of money.
Right.
I was using my own money. I was saving it up. I was buying a rental house. I was actually living in it, fixing it up myself, and then moving out and letting someone else, move in and rent it while I went to another duty station. Mm-hmm. So I was doing things wrong. And then, the flips, I would buy it, fix it up, resell it using all, my own money, or private lenders' money that I used initially. So I wasn't wholesaling until like a year and a half ago. It's probably when we wholesaled our first house.
Okay. So, tell me a little bit about that transition going into wholesaling and some of the pain points and successes you had early on there moving into wholesaling.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all came down to kind of marketing. The deals were kind of drying up on the MLS. I wasn't finding anything. I would finish a house, and then it would take another 3 to 6 months for me to find the next one. So it wasn't very wasn't consistent. So I wanted some more consistency, and I was doing a lot of my own work. So that transition was, yeah, let's see, I would send out some mail. I would get phone calls come in, and I'd be writing it down on a piece of paper. And then I would call them back, and then the paper would get lost, or I'd have a stack of 10 papers. And if I hadn't talked to somebody in a month, I just wouldn't call them back. I'd almost be personally embarrassed that I wasn't calling them. And then I would just move on to kind of the next phone call that came in and the next possible deal. And I was kind of just like chasing things all over the place. It wasn't very organized initially. So that was like 6 months before I kind of started thinking about automating my business and bringing on people. So that whole early stage of trying to be a wholesaler or an investor that was doing deals off market without any help and just myself, it wasn't very successful. I wasn't very good at it. I would lose phone numbers. Leads would get, they'd be all over the place. So I didn't have a system, and it was just me, and I'd be flying an airplane, and then I'd land and I'd have a voicemail from a mailer that I sent out, and I would call them back, and it might be a day later before I get to them. And if it was a really good deal, it's probably gone. So that's kind of what I remember it looking like about 3 years ago. I was kind of just trying to do it in an hour a day or so myself. And I was everything, Right. And then, so that wasn't overly successful. I did get one deal that way. I was almost going to give up. Like I was at a point where I was doing this marketing. I was looking on Craigslist. I was trying to find deals. I was even looking at other wholesalers' deals and stuff. And I saw a sign that said somebody was having an estate sale. And I had heard on a podcast or something that people had bought houses at estate sale. So I just went there, talked to the lady, talked to her son, and ended up just leaving my card and saying, hey, if you guys want to sell without an agent, just give me a call. And they called me back, and we did that deal, and I renovated that house myself. But it wasn't until I really got a system and started bringing people on that we really got successful, actually, putting multiple houses under contract and being consistent. So.
Absolutely. So InvestorFuse was your first CRM type software?
Well, no. So Podio was my first CRM. So I subscribed. Let's see. I got a subscription to Podio, and then I did. So I'm an engineer, is my background, mechanical engineer, and I'm pretty tech savvy. So I got Podio. I wasn't really discouraged by it. I got a Globoflow account, and I started creating my own automations. So I would read articles that people wrote about kind of automations that they had, and I just kind of map out what I wanted, and then I was writing my own automations and kind of systemizing my business and coming up with a way to make sure that I had follow-up sequences. I could use different systems and integrate them with Podio. So I did it myself for probably about 6 months for when we were initially taking calls and doing more volume. So that was really my first system that I used before I came on with you guys.
Okay. So yeah, like you made your own Podio, which is interesting because a lot of people, I would say most people that go that route, Podio and Globoflow, they hire someone else like a developer or something to do that for them. But
yeah, I did. That was my plan. So that's kind of when you guys came on my radar, that's kind of where I was. I was either going to hire someone to do everything for me, everything that I wanted to do, and I'm the visionary and they're the implementer, or I just come on with you guys and let you guys do it all.
Yeah. So that's what kind of intrigued you. Your time was probably already pinched enough with, working part-time with the Navy and building up a business and hiring people that you didn't want to spend it on.
Oh yeah. I mean, at that time I was full-time with the Navy. I was
full-time with the Navy.
With the Navy, at least. When it rained and I couldn't fly, I had a little bit of downtime, but yeah, I was 10 to 12 hours a day on nice days flying airplanes with the students. So yeah, that definitely, I got to the point where it was either my time and things weren't getting done. I'd have this like to-do list that I would get 2 things done off the 10 thing to-do list, and every day 10 new things would be added. So I just got to the point where I needed more functionality, and I also wanted a system that could kind of grow with my business. So let someone else work on that full time and come out with new automations and new things. And if I had some input, give it to them and let them do it and kind of grow with the times as their business grew, because that's what they did all the time. So as we talk on this conversation, you'll see I will hire anything out that I can that either I'm not good at or I shouldn't be spending my time doing. So, and this was not something that I should have been doing. I mean, I was creating flows and then testing them and then making sure and then, one thing would be off and it wouldn't be working and I wouldn't know it. So, I mean, even with all that tech knowledge, it wasn't where I needed to be spending my time.
Yeah.
And I probably could have done okay there, but it wouldn't have changed. Anytime I needed to change something, I'm in there for a couple hours, tweaking with it and trying to find the fix using Zapier combined with 5 other systems to send a text message and an email automation and stuff. So it was difficult.
Yeah, that is some tedious stuff. And that's a pretty common challenge I see with entrepreneurs is not wearing every hat and delegating stuff. Yeah. Because you could go in there and customize everything that you like. You have the engineering background, so it's something that you could do, but your bandwidth is just spread way too thin to be going in and tweaking GlobuFlow and Zapier for 4 hours in a given day when you're trying to work leads and hire and still full time with the Navy and everything like that. So applaud you for that, because I know that you delegate a lot of stuff and you have a big staff now, which we're going to get into. But tell me a little about your your initial experience with InvestorFuse, and on the other side of that, kind of what your team was starting to look like and where you put them in the acquisition process and disposition process for your business.
Yeah, I think at that time, so my first hire was someone to answer the phones. It was just kind of, I call her my lead manager, lead intake. So she just answers the phones because I was working all the time and she would answer the phones and then I'd go on the appointments. So that was what the business kind of looked like at first when we started ramping up our direct mail and online presence. And then I hired somebody to go on the appointments, just a kind of acquisitions role, to make offers, go on the appointments full time. So that's around the time, it was just the 3 of us, I think, when I came on with InvestorFuse. So at that point, I heard about it. I think you guys had just come out of beta, and I had some other friends of mine that were in other markets that were using you guys. So I watched a couple videos, came on with you guys. We transferred everything over. It was pretty seamless transition from Podio to Podio. It was pretty easy. A little bit of it was great because I could kind of show my lead manager, and she works in Podio the most. So she's her and the other lead intake people. They're in there pretty much full time, so they got training with the videos. I didn't have to spend a lot of time, and then we kind of grew with the system. So that first initial experience was good. It was a little bit early, so there wasn't the same functionality that we have now. So as we kind of grew, as you guys grew with us, we just were able to flex with the system a lot more. So the business kind of looked like just the 3 of us. I was still doing disposition, so everything that we would get, I would kind of push out the back end to our buyers list. Or analyze it to flip ourselves. And I was a project manager managing all the flips that we were doing too, with my general contractor. So that's kind of what the business looked like. And I was still in there tweaking some stuff. I still had to make some workarounds for some of the things that we wanted. But overall, it was a much better system than what I already had. So it was very easy plug and play. And the training videos, I think, helped us out a lot to see what, so I wouldn't have to walk everybody through what they needed to do. They could kind of watch the videos, and there was some support there with you guys that, hey, if they have questions, I can direct them to you instead of to me. Because ultimately, I don't want to bring on a system that it's going to increase my workload full time. Everything new that we do in this business, I find it's like every new hire that I have, it increased my workload in the beginning, but eventually it takes it off. So if I'm going to pay for something or bring on somebody or do something else, like it can't increase my workload when they come on. I'm not paying people to make me more busy. So that's what I thought was good about, kind of what you guys put out with the videos and things is I could direct them there. And then if they still had a question, they could come to me. So.
Absolutely. And as a side note real quick, what percentage would you say back then and currently, what percentage of deals that you're doing do you think are rehabs versus wholesale deals?
Yeah, then I was probably like 50-50. I wasn't doing a ton of volume then. But last year we flipped 12 and we wholesaled. I think we did like just under 70 deals last year, and 11 or 12 of those were flips. So maybe like 20-25%. This year will probably be like an 80-20 split, 80% wholesale, 20% flip, like actual flips that we buy with our own money or other people's money.
Very cool. So those 80 deals, what would you say for the rehab and the wholesales? What's a ballpark number for the average profit for deal there for you guys?
Yeah, it kind of depends on the city. We're in 2 cities now, but we average last year. I think we averaged like 8,000 or 9,000 for a wholesale deal. We probably averaged. I was doing some JV deals last year, so I would split, but we're in the 30s for a flip. This year, our flip average is around there. I shoot for about 25 or 30,000. Depends on price point. If we're in a high price point, I want my profit margin to be up. So I shoot for about 15% of cash on cash return. So, if we got a $600,000 house that we're all in for, I want to make 90 grand on it. If we're in it for 200,000, I'm going to make like 30,000 bucks. So that's about, our wholesale deals, one of my big pushes was to get the wholesale profit margin up, which is why I brought on somebody to help me sell the properties and everything. So we're probably around 11 or 12,000 average this year for our wholesale deals. Very
cool. So kind of jumping back and forth here, we were just talking about you had like a 3-person staff or had 3 people with you total. Tell me a little bit about that transition to where you're at now, where we were speaking recently, where you have 15 people on the payroll, pretty big operation in 2 markets. Tell me a little bit about that transition. And InvestorFuse wise, what kind of was there a set point or a set feature that kind of affirmed that InvestorFuse was going to be the right solution for you moving from where you were with that 3-person staff to where you're at now with like 15 people on your payroll in 2 markets?
Yeah, I think so. Let's see, that transition was based on kind of volume. So I would kind of, at that time I was still in the Navy, so I wasn't paying myself. So most of what I did just kind of went into growth of the company at that time. So I wasn't pulling money out of the company. So if we'd kind of ramp up with the number of people we had, we'd get consistent with what we were doing. I saw consistency, and then I could expand a little bit more, bring on another person to answer the phone, increase the marketing. When we had too many appointments, I could bring on a second person to go on the appointments, and it kind of organically grew based on our volume and then the market share too. So then we got to a point where I could dig in a little bit deeper into the market that we're in Pensacola, Florida, or we could go somewhere else. And I just happened to be moving at the same time for my son and my family. So I was looking at a second market because I knew I could just kind of tie in 1 or 2 people on the ground to the whole system that I already had set up. And the great part about what you're asking me about the CRM is that thing can expand based on, where I want to go. So if I got 100 calls coming in, before the calls would come in, they would write down the information and then they'd have to manually enter it into Podio. It wouldn't automatically come. So one of the biggest features that brought me there and keeps me with you guys is when the phone rings, a lead is created automatically. So they can just sit in there and start typing in the information from the lead that they're talking to on that phone. Or if we miss it, it's in the system already. It's not, they don't have to go into another system, like our phone system, look up the phone numbers that they missed, and then go back into Podio and enter it like they did have to before. We'd have to listen to the voicemail on a different system. We can listen to the voicemail all in one system now. So when you're getting 200 calls a week, and you're doing 150 or 200 deals a year, it's got to be easier for everybody. Like our time needs to be more efficient. So what I found was we can be more efficient in that system. I don't have to hire as many people. I don't have to hire a 4th or 5th person to answer the phone. And 2 or 3 people can be as efficient as in that system, taking their time and leveraging the system for their time. So as we grew, I knew that we could expand, and we just added, we go into another city, we just add another workspace. So I was able to add another workspace, set it all up exactly like I had for my original one, and they already know how to use the system. And now the calls come into the new workspace. So definitely some growing pains with, adding people and bigger systems and, multiple markets, but the ability of kind of Podio and what you guys have set up with InvestorFuse just allowed us to easily transition from a 3-person team to a much bigger team with doing more deals and tracking and all that stuff. So.
Absolutely. And yeah, that's a little bit of a delayed gratification, right? So you're bringing your team on that has to spend time and energy and use the software to actually learn it. But after that time period where they get comfortable with it, you're going to be saving time on the back end, X amount of time on the back end when they have that automation stuff set up.
Yeah, if you're going to be a marketer, an investor, or a house flipper, you need to get used to delayed gratification, because we put our money in now and we hope that it turns into more money in the future. So it's the same thing, when my marketing goes out, it goes out. I write that check that day, but it doesn't come in, maybe for a month or 2 months or 3 months down the road. So
exactly,
get used to that. And all the people that are just getting started or see that, you just have to know, just believe in the kind of the process and the system, and get your system set up, allow it to grow with you, and know that when you put the money in, it's going to come back out. If you have the right system and CRM and product and people in place, then you can set up a business that will become more automated and less work for you and everybody else. So, and the money does come. You just have to kind of, delayed gratification is tough for us.
Yeah, it is,
as humans. So get used to it if you want to be in this business.
Yeah. And just to clarify, Bill, for those listening, when you're having all these calls come in, that's for direct mail that you're sending out, and you have a CallRail marketing number attached to those mail pieces. And I would assume you have a different CallRail tracking number for each of the marketing campaigns or lists that you're mailing to. And
Yes.
Those are coming into the system where you're able to track different KPIs and metrics for each of those, and see how many leads you're getting from each campaign, how many deals you're closing from each of those campaigns.
Yeah, exactly. We use CallRail. I probably got 30 numbers in CallRail, maybe 40 now. And we just, every time I add a new campaign or some new idea that we're testing out, everything will be split tested with different phone numbers. Comes in the system, and I can tag it with a certain campaign. Exactly. Direct mail, online marketing, even like little videos that we'll set up and maybe boost out on Facebook or something to try to attract sellers. We'll have a different phone number. I'm kind of a numbers nerd as the, COO basically of the company, CEO. So I want to see, if I spend this much money, how much is coming back to me. So.
Yeah. And I know from our previous conversation, I know that one of your main responsibilities now is to kind of throw logs into the marketing fireplace, just make sure that the calls are coming in, leads are coming in, and you're kind of the puppet master of making sure your acquisition team is on top of it, and all those leads are getting responded to and are on automated follow-ups and being closed.
Yeah, I'm still kind of the marketing manager of the company. I basically look at myself as, I check in with all the different departments that we have, whether it's the leads, the acquisitions, or the dispositions teams. And I kind of split it up like that. And then I find the money. So I raise the capital, and I'm basically the CFO. So what are we spending? What are we making? That kind of stuff. We do have a bookkeeper that is fantastic. But, I kind of look at more KPIs, big picture numbers. How much am I spending and how much is that making me? And then I'm also the marketing manager, unfortunately. So it's pretty easy and automated at this point. And I do have a social media manager that does a lot of stuff, and I'm trying to start getting her to work into the marketing side of things. But yeah, I get the phone to ring. So yeah, I'm tied into that too.
So is that where the majority of your leads are coming from direct mail versus the online, drawing traffic to your website and the Facebook?
Yeah, we have way more leads to sift through from direct mail, because, we get a lot. It's just time consuming. Direct mail is more time consuming than online marketing. So if we're doing any marketing on Facebook or pay-per-click or Google, it's more targeted stuff. Like, they're looking for us. We're not looking for them. Mm-hmm. So we have less leads. They're typically more motivated and better leads, but we spend the most time on our direct mail. So incoming leads, definitely, we're probably and depending on how you classify a lead, if you're just talking about incoming phone calls or contacts or touches, we're probably around, 250 a month, and 200 of those are probably on the phone from direct mail pieces. So they're definitely a skew towards direct mail for us. And they might just be take me off the list, or
right.
How much will you give me for my house? It's, non-motivated stuff. But
mm-hmm.
And we're definitely skewed about the same for deals. So we'll probably do 16 deals from direct mail a month, and 4 or 5 from online marketing. So
yeah, so 80% is coming from direct mail, 20% online presence of some sort.
Yeah, that's about right.
I'm looking at your tiles here, which is kind of like a way to have a running dashboard on your business here. And these numbers are looking pretty accurate to what you've said here, as far as you like to fill around 20 appointments a week for your acquisitions team?
Yeah, I want about 8 to 10 per person. And then I'd say these tiles are probably pretty accurate. I don't use them as much as I should. So I think we're probably skewed a little bit on some of the numbers, like the new leads this week. They're probably not set up properly to show me that.
Yeah. And we're going to be doing some tweaks to those two to make it a little bit more automated and organized too.
But yeah, I mean, you can use typically what I do. Because I have 2 cities, so we'll use my Google Calendar more for me watching my acquisitions people and seeing how many appointments they have. Because right now I'd have to flip back and forth between the 2 workspaces to see earnings from that city and this city, and then leads from that city and this city. So primarily, I still use a lot of the CallRail just kind of mapping feature and kind of filtering, where I can see like how many calls did we get this week and how do they break down between cities and stuff. And then and appointments, I'll just kind of peek at the Google Calendar. But I'm not too involved in that stuff, unless probably at the end of the month I'll look at KPIs and dig into it a little closer. But I have kind of my team sets up I get a report from them on a lot of things at the end of the week, like how many appointments did we go on, what was canceled, what do we have as possible deals. So
yeah, and that's ideally where we like our CEOs that have subscriptions to InvestorFuse to be. We don't necessarily want them to be in the CRM most of the day. They should be getting to the point eventually where you're at. They're kind of managing the marketing. They can raise money if they're doing rehabs or other investment ventures like that. And then they can kind of come in, look at the CallRail report, look at the internal report from their team, check out tiles. If there are multiple marketplaces there, they can just click on the top left corner there, which is pretty organized and simple to do, which you touched on earlier in the call. So you could see I
can go to Chattanooga here or Pensacola. This is my old workspace that doesn't get looked at anymore. It's junk. So I agree with you. I really don't go in Podio much anymore, to be perfectly honest with you. I'll occasionally just kind of peek in there. And the way that I operate it is if somebody does an @mention with my name on it, I'll pop in there and look at it. So I tell them, if you don't do that, I probably won't see it. So.
Yeah, and I think that's a benefit of Podio in general. It's pretty team oriented, where you can have a lot of team communication and see what everybody's doing. You can assign tasks to yourself or task delegation. So I'm sure you were definitely involved in that as you've been growing and where you're at now.
Yeah.
Very cool, man. Tell me a little bit about when you get a deal under contract. What would you say that breakdown is for, first couple touches with the seller that you get a deal under contract versus, 5+ touches where you get a deal under contract? What would you say that rough breakdown's like?
Oh, you mean how many times does it take before we get a deal?
Yeah.
How many touches? Yeah, it's pretty rare. Like the first time they call, we go on the appointment and we get a deal. It depends. If we're talking about pay-per-click or direct mail, pay-per-click, probably a little bit more motivated, less touches, and online marketing. If they're looking for us, it's usually a lot quicker process. But I mean, we've dropped deals that are 8 months old from follow-up. But the majority of them, if I had to put a number on it, I'd say we're probably around 6 or 7 touches, whether it's direct mail or a text message or a slide broadcast or something, email. It's probably somewhere around that. It would be a guess, but it's very, very rare that we go on the appointment. Like they call, we set up an appointment, we go on the appointment that week, and we sign the contract. I wish it was like that, but it's not. And I tell all my new acquisitions people that come on, you're going to start seeing your stride about 3 months, because you're going to build those appointments that you went on that you're following up on from a month ago or 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago that are thinking about the offer. And they need a little bit more time to have problems and be motivated more. Because, I mean, we all know we're not offering top dollar for these houses. So it's really got to be a win-win for both parties, and they got to be ready to sell at our number. So yeah, it's probably 6 or 7 touches over at least a month or two.
Yeah, I think that's right at the average 6th or 7th touch in sales in general, when you get that, when you're able to convert that sale, or in our case, get the contract signed. And Frank Kern, he gave a great presentation at at an event in San Diego in January, and he was talking to the crowd. He's not in real estate, but he was talking to the crowd, and he was saying, like, the people that call you the first time off a mail piece and set an appointment with you are absolute unicorns. Like, just human psychology. Who picks up a random postcard, calls a stranger, and schedules a time for them to come to the house? So that's why you need to have, like, the follow-ups in place, and you need to build rapport and establish credibility. And I agree with that. The 3-month timetable is probably a sweet point for converting some of those appointments and converting some of those contracts.
Yeah, and that's the problem with what I was doing initially is I would drop the follow-up, I would stop calling them. There were deals. Let's go back to my second hire. My first hire was somebody answered the phones, and I was going on the appointments. So I was in the airplane all day. I'd be able to go on 3 or 4 appointments a week maybe, and they're usually on the weekend. Like, I'd pick a Saturday and I'd go on appointments, and then maybe I could squeeze something in on a weekday, but I wasn't prompt about getting on the appointments. So when I hired an acquisitions person to come in and work for me, she went in the database. She could basically mine the database, and she was very successful very fast. She dropped like 4 or 5 contracts in because she could get to them immediately and follow up with them. And there was gold in there that I just couldn't get to or wouldn't get to or didn't get to. And she came in and became very successful very quick because she could go in there and get on the appointments and actually attend them 5 days a week. So, with that becomes the fact that the system, having a CRM and, InvestorFuse does a ton of things that you can have, but with that CRM comes success. So like that, if you don't have one, you need one. So, and that was great to see, because it basically told me that, okay, I could have been doing this over the last 3 months, but I wasn't. And there were deals in there that whole time. I just needed someone to come in and be able to put more than just a couple hours part-time in it. So otherwise you're wasting all that money on marketing and everything else. You're spending a ton of money on marketing, but not a couple $100 a month on a CRM. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you're spending all that time and energy on your marketing budget and campaign, when you have systems and automated follow-ups in place, you're really going to be able to get the most return out of all that marketing money that you spend by having nice processes, systems, and follow-ups in place. So definitely.
Yeah, even me, I'm reamping my whole follow-up system right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's one of the most important things that we do. And just like you talked about, how many touches does it take? Well, if anybody slips through, even if they're in our system, but they're not being contacted all the time, we need to make sure that they're constantly being followed up with.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit what that revamp looks like and kind of what that automated follow-up allows you to do, what that looks like for you.
Yeah. So right now we use a lot of the systems that are in place with text and email and slide dial and mail pieces. So my plan is I want over a year of follow-up for everybody in the system, and different stages, and depending on where they are in our system when they came in, where my people put them on. Mm-hmm. And whether we went on an appointment or they just called in and we never got a hold of them, something like that. So right now we have an automated system, but it doesn't go as long as a year. So my goal is to use different mediums, try to implement, incorporate all of these different options, whether we have a phone number, an email address for them, and be able to get follow-up to them. If we don't have an email address and we're sending them emails, they're never going to get it. It's not in our system. So, I need to use these text messages and slide dials and emails and mail pieces together. So, exactly what it looks like, I don't have it finalized, but I want to reach. It's very similar to like the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. So if any of you guys are real estate agents, Gary Keller writes about the number of times you have to reach these people before they're going to come around to let you list their house. Basically, the same thing for real estate investors. We gotta reach out just as much as they do, and touch these people. And I'd like to get 45 or 50 different contacts with them, just because, mm-hmm. and just get them to a yes or a no. Either they are going to be in my system or they're not. And the way they're not is if they sell the house or if they tell me to stop talking to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of those, for the automated follow-ups that you have in place, the texts and the emails, they're pretty aggressive as far as how many days they're spread out. So there may be a text that goes out one day, then day 3, then day 5, day 7, then you might wait a week, like that.
Yeah.
So they're pretty.
Yeah. And that's really what I'm looking at now. Like, how aggressive do I want to be? And that's what I was doing this morning. You know, I wake up early and I sit down and write notes. And this morning I deciding, how aggressive do I want to be? Do I want it to be day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 7, day 14, day 21? Or do I want it to be day 1, day 5, day 7, day 10, 14, 21, you know, and then make it less aggressive. So, and I think that's kind of up to each of us. You know, do you want to really piss people off to get them out of your database? Or do you want them to say, hey, I appreciate you following up with me this much, but I'm not interested, or, you know, we're not selling right now. So that's kind of the stance that I have to take as the CEO. Like, where do we really want to be as a company? And I don't really want to be the guy who's really pissing them off, but I want to be following up enough to get an answer.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to, you know, if you get an email once a month, you might not unsubscribe from something, or you might not tell them that you're not interested, but just because it's easy to delete. But if you get that email every day from that same person, you're gonna say something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some people are the kind that are gonna get our mail piece the first day and call us really upset that we sent something in the mail. And then some people are gonna wait till they get their 6th one and call us and say, stop sending me this, you know?
Yeah. Timing is everything when working with these sellers and trying to convert contracts. I think there's a little bit of a line, like pissing sellers off or agitating sellers, putting them, touching them every day. And then there's the other side of that I think sellers may appreciate, because on average, they're probably talking to 3 or 4 other investment companies if you're sending mail. So if you're able to separate yourself from the competition with these automated follow-ups, I think there's a certain extent where sellers appreciate your professionalism following up with them. Like, oh, you know, Blackjack Real Estate has been able to stay in touch with me every month. They're really professional, stuff like that. They send me, you know, seller testimonials, things like that. So I think
and that's what it is. I don't want a piss off sequence. I want a sequence where, like you said, they're getting some information about the company, or they're getting, hey, this is what we did for somebody else in your neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
or, you know, when you're ready, give us a call, or here's how to contact us. And everybody's going to be a little bit different. You got that person that you email them one time and they're like, just get me off your list, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So we can't please everybody, but we're just trying to make sure that we get to the people. And if they don't want to be contacted, they come off our list. We don't keep them on there for nothing. So if they tell us to remove them, we remove them. So, and we get it on mail all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of people, oh yeah, how much you're buying my house cash? What are you paying right now? Tell me.
Yeah, it's funny. I get people that write a note on my note and pay 49 cents to put it back in the mail to me again. So I don't know how people have that much time. If they want $1 million for their $50,000 house, like, save your 50 cents.
Yeah.
So yeah, some people have too much time on their hands.
Absolutely. Well, cool, man. Moving forward here, and we kind of touched on this as you're building out some of your automated follow-up sequence and stuff, but moving forward here, you're in 2 markets. You got a big company now doing great revenue-wise. And we discussed kind of what you're doing right now as the CEO of the company, wearing a lot of hats still. But where do you see yourself moving forward as a business, and how does that relate to, like, your day-to-day, what you'll be doing moving forward, and what type of goals you're trying to accomplish with your business and personal life, because they go hand in hand?
Yeah, I think, you know, that's a tough question to answer. I think that we've scaled so fast over the last year and a half, and I've put everything that I've made back into the company to grow. And I think right now I'm pretty happy where I am to finally just stay on that plateau for a little bit and, you know, dig into our 2 markets, become consistent, get better at what we do, kind of fine tune the details as opposed to just continue to try to grab more market share everywhere. So my plan going forward, certainly for this year, is to, you know, start finding a way to pay myself, because I need a salary now that I left the military, and be consistent. and make sure that my people are meeting their goals too. So, get more personal with my staff, find out, what their goals are. Are they meeting their financial goals? How can I help? How can we, because, if we just get bigger and bigger and bigger and I add more people in more territories, it kind of waters down that kind of personal level that we have in the company with everybody. So I love the size that we are right now. I'm not really excited to get much bigger or go into multiple more markets. Maybe just we kind of expand the area a little bit where we are, or dig deeper into it. And because we're very new in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So, a lot of what we're doing is going to be digging in there and making sure that, that my people that are there are as efficient as they can be, and how I can help them, whether it means, we go out there and work with them. But that's kind of where I see it over the next year. Like, I want to run a 7-figure business, and that's kind of where we're at. And that's where I kind of see it going in the future. Maybe we'll go grab another market or go somewhere else or do something else. I'm very interested. I love raising capital and paying interest to other people that I know, friends, family. So, me personally, maybe it, spawns into a lending company or something. And, I also like helping out other investors too, to kind of show them what I did as fast as I did, and just show them that it's possible pretty much anywhere. You can just go grab a market. It doesn't have to be something big, a big place like LA or San Diego or New York. It can be, small cities and towns. And if people are buying real estate, you can make money there. So I like doing that too. And personal life, I want to spend more time with my kids. Every time I hire somebody else, my workload goes way up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd like to kind of calm it down. I like to travel with my family. Just kind of spend some time at home and relax a little bit, because the last year and a half has been 2 full-time jobs and been really stressful on everybody. So long answer for your question, but I think it's kind of become more stable, dig in and dig deeper in the market. And, hey, if I can spend a little bit more money in those cities and produce, an exponential income, revenue out of that money, then that's what we'll do.
Absolutely. No, I love the answer, and I love to hear, I always like to pick people's brain and take nuggets of good advice. So when I can hear nuggets from a good entrepreneur and father and husband, definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, I got the biggest one I can give you is I can't really unplug myself. So my big goal this year is to really slow down what I'm doing. So when I'm with my family, I'm actually present, because right now I'm not. I may be like sitting with my son, but checking my email, or I get a text message, or I'm on the phone with him and he's playing upstairs, and he said "daddy" 3 times before I realized he said it once. So that to me is the biggest thing that I'm working on right now as an entrepreneur and a business owner, is to really, and real estate is 24/7, right? So we never get a break. So I try to unplug and find it. Like yesterday, I just went to the pool with him for 2 hours, and I left my phone over by the chair and I didn't touch it. So it's very rare that I do that, and it's also almost become, that's just the way it is, but I don't want that. So he knows, he sees me on my phone all the time. He knows, he picks up his phone and says, "Ring, ring, daddy, I want to talk to you," instead of just talking to me. So, I certainly don't want that to become the status quo. So, I've recently hired somebody in my personal life to help me with my calendar and emails and tasking and stuff like that, because that's really where my focus is. If I can give anybody advice that spends, 18 hours on their phone and email and systems and all that stuff and doesn't take a break for themselves, is find a way to unplug and actually put the phone down, because it's hard. I see people driving around town all the time with their phone right in their face. And that's kind of the society we've become. So
absolutely. I think that's kind of the norm for a CEO in a real estate investing company, is that, like you said, real estate's 24/7, but also the day and age that we're in, just such a connected world with phones and iPads and stuff, that people are just on their phone constantly. So that's something that I have been working on for a while here, is trying to disconnect. So in the morning, not looking at my phone before I go to bed. The last couple hours, don't look at my phone. That helps me disconnect a lot. And we had a company retreat. This is what I've been telling friends and family on that subject. We had a retreat in Orlando So we were walking around like Disney World, Universal Studios area. And I always knew, I've known recently that people are just addicted to their phones to a certain extent. But that's when it really hit me, is when I would see a family of parents and little kids walking around, and the parents would be holding the little kid's hand, but they're both on their phone walking through the park while they're supposed to be looking at all this great stuff. So it's a crazy day and time we're living in.
I know. I mean, people will just bump into me. Just the other day, I was in the hospital going to visit my son, and somebody just like walks out the elevator and just runs right into me because they're staring at their phone. And and believe me, I'm guilty too. So it's, but you know, we gotta find time, pull ourselves away from that stuff, and actually unplug, because being present is different than being there. You know, and so that's hard for me. So I know I have to work on it, and I physically have to think about not checking it all the time, like checking my email and sending texts and looking at things. Like, I have to put it down, and it has to be like over there. And then even when it is, I want to go grab it's an addiction at this point.
It absolutely is.
So that's what I'm working on. And if I have a goal this year, and that's my biggest one, is to actually be present when I'm with my family and friends, because I find myself doing it all the time. So.
Very cool. Likewise, man. That's something I've been working on and going to continue to work on. To conclude here, Bill, I know that you're a very respected guy in the real estate mastermind. You're in the 6 and 7 figure flipping community. To conclude, what's some advice that you tell them? Because I'm sure a lot of those members come to you, they see your rapid success with real estate, rehabbing and wholesaling. What's some advice that you give to them as far as when they're asking, hey, what CRM are you using? Or, hey, what type of software and systems are you using to build and run your real estate organization?
Well, if they're asking me about CRM, I just tell them what I'm using. I tell them the features of it and what I think of it. There's a bunch of them out there. I don't know the first thing about any of the other ones. So I would say, hey, look, this is what I use. This is what it can do. I believe in it. The reason I'm still here is because I love it. And it helps me do what I do. So as far as CRM goes, I mean, I give them the information that I have. I tell them what it's done for me, and you know how successful we've become because of that. And you know, there's probably others out there, but frankly, I know a couple of them, but I don't know. I know Podio and I know InvestorFuse, and you know that's what I've used. So that's kind of it. I just say, hey, here it is. If you guys want to get on a call with me, I can go through you know what it does for me and the business and how we use it. As far as CRM goes, other advice I give, the biggest thing is for me, I see a lot of people try to just expand and grow really fast. So we grew really fast, but I still think that we did it very organically, and I would see growth, and I funded growth too. So it wasn't easy. One of the benefits that I had was I had a full-time job that was paying me income. So I didn't have to pull money out. A lot of people have to pull money out, and they don't know why they can't double their marketing costs the next month when they don't even know what their numbers are. So they don't know what their gross margin is. They don't know they know their revenue, but they don't look at all the money that they're spending on systems and CRMs and marketing and people and all of those things. So if you don't know that and you can't dig into your numbers, you don't want to fund growth forever. So I don't want to go to 3 different markets or 4 and then 5 and then 6. And next thing I know, I built this huge organization that is spitting off $0 from me as the owner forever. So otherwise, you just created another job for yourself running a company. So I tell them to kind of grow. Let's see. I want them to scale appropriately, like be smart about scaling and be smart about growing. You get into some of these groups and these masterminds, or you might watch this recording and say, hey, this in a year and a half, this guy went from like doing 0 deals to doing, 150 or 200 this year. And it really, what it's all the people that I have. It's all the systems that we created. It's all of that stuff. But, I funded it all too. So I didn't pull out $1 million in my bank account. It's all in that company for future growth or future revenue. So I just say, look at your situation. Everybody's different. It doesn't have to look like this company. And when you're in these 7-figure flipping group and everybody's, striving for 7 figures, not everyone necessarily is going to get there the same way. So, kind of figure out what you got, what's your unfair advantage in your market or you personally, and then exploit that and use that for your growth and figure out where you need to be. So, but I think your question was probably tailored more CRM wise. That the answer is I just tell them what I use. As far as the other things, it's just know that if somebody else can do it, so can you. You can run the company just like me probably. But you have to be committed to it, and you have to take action, and you have to be quick, and you have to make tough decisions quickly. So that's what I tell most of them is, scale kind of organically, and don't be too quick to try to triple and quadruple your business, because next thing you know, you could spend $50,000 on the wrong marketing channel, and next thing you know, you got 10,000 coming in, and you can't pay the bills. So.
Very sage advice.
Yeah. I mean, I learned it the hard way on some things. So there's certainly some things that we've done that haven't worked out, but we have the cushion to do it now. So.
Very cool. Well, Bill, appreciate your time, man, and look forward to working with you on your InvestorFuse, doing strategy and consulting to help optimize your business. And the end goal is time. That's our why for InvestorFuse is time freedom. So the more that we're able to help you in your business so you can spend time with your family.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that. You guys have created something that's allowed investors to kind of scale their business and be happy and reduce the workload that they have, right? And I don't know what your initial why was, but maybe that was it. My why initially was, hey, I want to build a business and make money. And now it changes over time to, hey, I see all these people that are working, with me and in the company, and now they're really successful. So now my why has kind of shifted to making them successful and meet their goals. So I think you guys have seen that too, probably, of, hey, our why has changed to now meet these investors' goals. So when you get on a call like this and you see what somebody's doing with your system, you probably, hey, now our why becomes, look how happy these guys are. Look what they've been able to do with our system. I mean, it's a perfect, it's all real kind of organic, comes together. I got all these other systems and companies that I pay that allow me to do what I do. And without those, we wouldn't be able to do it. So we're all just kind of like a cog in the wheel. And without that system or that process or that, we can't do it. So it's pretty cool to, talk to some of the owners or the builders of these companies and say, hey, I like my mail house. Like I love the fact that like they're without them, I'm sitting here writing handwritten postcards or letters or, trying to figure out a way to get my mail out, where I just have to send an email to these guys and it's done, and they send me an invoice and I pay it. It's great. And talking to the owner of that company is like, hey man, thank you so much for what you do, because I don't think you realize what you're doing for us. So I don't know what kind of feedback you guys get, if it's always negative or what, but you probably get a lot of positive testimonials, and I hope you do. But we're always looking for that like one little thing that's not working, or that we always have problems, and we go to the builders and the implementers of the companies with the problems, and we never get the positives of what's happening. So, I mean, yeah, without you guys and without the systems, I'd be doing probably, 5-10 less deals a month. So you guys are making me money. So I'm glad I'm making you money. So
appreciate that, man. Appreciate your time today, and appreciate you as a valued member of the InvestorFuse community.
Yeah, I had a good time. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Bill Allen, Blackjack Real Estate CEO. We'll chat soon, Bill. Thank you again.
All right. See ya.